Alright, hey guys, welcome back to another week of me trying to be profitable and earn a payout. This was another great week for me as I stayed patient and I waited properly for the setups. There weren't that many opportunities to make plays as often market didn't provide according to my model, but that's all good. I gotta keep waiting and not force setups on those days, so I'll be prepared for good setups that I know will eventually come. It's been tough adjusting to the later trading time though, really tiring, but I just gotta push through with the struggle. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's get into this week's trades. Alrighty, so today seemed to be pretty undetermined for now as we're tapping into this 4-hour order block for Birch very aggressively. We had this untapped 1-hour order block below and we also had this wick from sweeping the all-time high. Since that was the case, I wanted to look a little deeper at the low time frame. Coming into the low time frame, price seemed to be retesting into this bullish 15 and 5 minute fair value gaps. We were accumulating within this overlap and overall showing signs of bullish, so there were some conflicting bias overall today. And since that was the case, I was only going to give price a little bit to prove me wrong. If it did, then I would consider looking for a setup, but more likely I'm going to avoid trading for today. And going into market open, I ended up throwing that just straight out the window as price ended up shifting higher with a break on the 5 minute. We formed a new 5 minute order block which seemed pretty nice, plus we wicked into the 5 minute high-low golden zone which added on more to the bias. I was still pretty on edge about the setup, but I figured that since we were at all-time highs and we were continuing with that low time frame power, I could take the trade up to the all-time high. Although this was quickly wrong for a loss of 240. And with this setup today, I could have definitely been more conservative with my entry. I would say that my entry was a bit hasty after seeing price wick the golden zone and the imbalances. Like I was saying before, I was more likely going to not trade today since there were some unalignments with the high time frame, and that could mean that I don't even need to stay on as price action isn't what I wanted to see. As I did end up taking a setup today, I considered that as breaking my rules and the criteria I set for myself, and I think in the future I could just avoid hopping on in general when price action isn't looking too hot. This was a change I already implemented where if there's a particular news event I'm bad on, I just won't hop on, and if there's bad price action with some conflicts, I'll also avoid trading. Holding that rule more strictly since trade times are much later now too, so if I can avoid a day where the odds against my favor and instead get more rest and restore my mental, I'll take that. So yeah, I'll be even more stricter on myself in the future regarding this, and I'll be careful to recognize whether the conditions are good for me or not. Alright guys, so today seems to be pretty bullish for now as we're coming off of respecting this 4-hour order block. We had also recently break through a 1-hour order block, creating a breaker which could act as a support for us to continue higher. Looking at the low time frame, price was continuing to travel bullish, though I didn't really like the look of price on the 5 minute as there weren't any pullbacks. We had this untapped 15 plus 5 minute order block below which could be used as a target for price to tap, so if I do go for a setup, I will want to see this level get hit first. And for today, I was looking at the setup that was somewhat forming as we wicked into this 15 minute fair value gap, which was also the 5 minute high-low golden zone. This was a pretty good overlap that I wanted to see price follow through if we were to hold and go for the longs, and we ended up getting a pretty good reaction and assumed that we were going to form a strong break, but last second price formed a wick which technically still counted as a break, but it just wasn't as clean. Since that candle appeared, I wanted to wait for some clear indication or shift to bring me into this setup, and price ended up accumulating for a while, which is where I decided to call it quits for today as it was getting really late. And for today, honestly, it wasn't too bad. Price was showing some promise initially with the 15 minute fair value gap wick tap and the 5 minute high-low golden zone holding, but since it didn't follow through, I decided to just avoid trading today, which was the right decision as price did hit the stop a bit later. All good day overall, and I'm going to keep remaining patient for a good entry to come. Alright, so today seems to be pretty bearish as we're retesting into this 4-hour and 1-hour fair value gap overlap. This was a pretty strong overlap, so overall felt like the future move could go lower. Here at the low time frame, we had this 15 plus 5 minute order block, and we also had this 5 minute fair value gap within that which price was currently retesting. This range was pretty strong and was my key level, so I wanted to see the reaction price would have. Going into the setup, price ended up inversing the key level, which made me switch over to bullish. Since we had 6 time frame alignments for both sides, I was basing the setup more off of the low time frame moves, and since we got a shift, I switched my bias. We ended up getting a nice shift higher on the 1 minute, which also corresponded with a new 5 minute candle forming, which confirmed another bullish candle, which is where I decided to enter. I've seen setups like this occur from the backtesting, which is why I was confident to take it, even though we hadn't tapped into the equilibrium of the 1 minute high-low range yet. Since we were moving with volume 2, I thought it was a good opportunity to get in, though we were quickly wrong for a loss. All good day all around. I took a setup with a hesitation after it confirmed since I was confident in it overall. Since we got that shift into another confirmation along with the time frame alignments and even an SMT, the setup was A+. I'm glad I didn't hesitate with this setup, and I think I did a good job waiting for the setup to come to me. On a good path right now, and I think I'm going to continue working to grow. Okay, so price seemed to be pretty bullish overall after I had a quick scan. We had a 4-hour and 1-hour fair value up holding price up, and even though we did have bearish confluences like a 1-hour order block holding price down, we also pushed down very weakly from the retest, so it just overall felt more bullish from both confluences and price action. Coming down to the low time where price was currently respecting a 15-minute and 5-minute order block. These confluences were for bullish, which reflected what the high time was showing, so it seemed that we were pretty good for the longs today if we had to follow through. And for today, I wanted to wait to see the reaction to the imbalances, since if we continued holding and got a shift higher, I would want to get into the setup, and we ended up pushing down, which was all good since we hadn't formed the 5-minute candle yet, and it even looked like we had a potential to form an SMT. The price ended up plummeting more and more, which was very unfortunate, as that meant that the setup I was going for was invalidated, and since that was the case, I just closed up the charts and headed to bed. And for today, I did call it a night pretty quickly, but it was for a good reason. If I had forced the setup earlier when we got a 1-minute IFG, I would have gotten cooked hard on the setup. Since we broke lower, we invalidated the low time imbalances as well as the 5-minute highlight golden zone and the SMT that was forming. We also only had 2 time frame alignments for bearish, which was the 1-hour and 5-minute, both of them being order blocks. But yeah, since price was doing something more unconfirmed and I felt that it was unaligned with my model, I just called it a night. Alright, so today we seem to be ranging quite a bit on the high time frame. We had some conflicting confluences with a 4-hour plus 1-hour order block for bearish, and we also had a 4-hour plus 1-hour fair value gap for bullish. Since the high time frame was a battle of the imbalances, I wanted to see how price looked lower down. And looking at the low time frame though, we seem to be moving pretty clear for bearish. Price was currently retesting into a 15 plus 5-minute fair value gap for bearish, which aligned pretty well with the high time frame order blocks, which were overlapping as well. I mainly wanted to see the reaction off of this key level and make a decision off of that. And going into the setup, I ended up taking a short today after price got a shift lower on the 1 minute. We ended up getting a bit of a retest with a wick where I then entered after seeing price confirm this. We also had a bearish SMT with NQ leading, so I was really confident in the setup, and we were pushing down really well with us getting up to around 1 to 1 hour where we then started stalling. Price was just barely missing my point to break even, so I was waiting to see what could happen. Then macro hit and we ended up pushing up strongly to the buy side where we then got stopped out for a loss of 340. And with today, honestly, I'm really happy with today's setup. We had really good time frame alignments and confluences. We had a good confirmation as well as an SMT to back up the setup too. It's just quite unfortunate that price didn't play out as well, and for sure there's still things I can improve and learn from this loss. I will say I stayed in the setup because I was pretty confident in the confluences holding at the time. At the time we only had a 5-minute order block really resisting the push down, and I thought that the time frame stack could overpower it. Also with that bearish SMT and the 5-minute CISD to the sell side, there wasn't much incentive for me to hop out of this trade early. And even when price starts pushing higher, I wanted to give the trade space to breathe, and I did also accept the risk when entering, so it was alright. Unfortunate that it didn't work out, but it's all good. I can't control the markets, but I can control the way I react to what happened. And I'm happy with how I stuck to the rules today, because I could have easily added more contracts into the setup since it was running, which I did consider, as I could have passed the account from that. Though I know that over leveraging is not the proper way to do things, and in the long term I'd benefit more from just sticking to my rules. And that ended up proving itself today with price reversing, which just shows that I should stick to my risk, because I could have been down way more and that could have chained into me blowing up from that. So yeah, a great day all around. Alright, so that about does it for this week. Not a bad week at all this week. Took a clean trade and didn't force too many setups other than Monday where I did force an unnecessary setup. I readjusted after that though because I gotta make the change and not just be sad about the loss. I think that adjustment was very important actually, because I know that it's very easy to talk about losses and blow up accounts, and I like what I did where I just moved on and accepted the loss as a silly mistake that doesn't define me. I think that this mindset is that of a profitable trader, and I will continue, and I know that maintaining this healthy mental is what will bring me to a profitable outcome. I'm really happy with the progress I'm making, and I'm going to keep on continuing to work hard and grow. But yeah, otherwise that's about it for this week. If you guys are interested, check out me and my friends' Discord. It's just a chill place for everybody to talk and grow as traders, and we're all on the same path to become the traders that we want to become. So let me know if you guys are keen. But yeah, that's about it for this one, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.